welcome to another edition of Luminar Coffee Break. I'm your host, Fidelli. Now, our topic today is how to get better skies for portraits. How to get better skies, especially for outside portraits. We don't have the luxury of determining, the skies during our portrait shoot. So as photographers, what ends up happening is we have a plan A. We go out and the skies look beautiful. Then we incorporate those into our scene. So we're photographing one style. If we get out there and the skies are horrible, then we have to do a plan B and think, well, what can we do to not include the skies into the image? With this little quick technique, I want to show you how you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that anymore. So as a photographer, you can go out. If you decide I want a low angle shot, I'll include the sky that's kind of boring. It's okay. I'll be able to replace it real quick using these techniques. All right. Now, before we begin, I do want to thank our partner, Fujifilm. Thank you so much for helping make these episodes possible. And Fuji would like to give us a message to stay safe, stay creative, and stay home. Hey, and hello for our friends up in Minnesota, and of course here in Florida. Now, a couple things on this shot itself. I did use the Fuji camera they sent me, the X-T3. Now, if you look close, here we are with Lewis. You've seen me working with Lewis before. We took this shot from a low angle. Now, if you notice in the background, there's a lot of telephone cables. So there's a lot of power cables, or whatever they are. There's a bunch of cables in the background. Now, we could easily get rid of that if we decided to move him back about 30 feet. And at first, my right hand, Richie Acevedo, recommended, hey, why don't we move him behind the power lines? But I have to be honest with you. As an educator, I said, let's leave it, because I want to see how Luminar handles those power lines. And in this particular image, it wasn't that noticeable there. So I'm hoping when we replace the clouds, it'll replace everything and it'll look really, really good and clean. Second reason why we shot it the way we did was notice the angle. Now I tried to shoot this, or if I tried to shoot this with my Nikon D810, the camera is so large, which I love, but in a case like this, it would have been hard to drop low. I'm sitting on the ground, and I wish I could show you the behind the scene photos. I'm sitting on the ground as low as I can get, excuse me, and I couldn't get the angle that I wanted and still be wide. In fact, let's see, we shot this at 17 millimeter. All right, so we shot that very, very wide. So what I had to do is I put the camera right on the ground, tilted it up, and I flipped the screen up. So now I can look down and see the screen. That gave me those little extra inches I needed. And most importantly, this is the best part, the Fuji locked onto his face and locked onto his eyes. Once I did that, didn't matter where I put the camera, I was able to get a really nice, clean shot. Now, we did underexpose the image just a bit. I had a flash off to the side, but the problem with the flash I had, it was a regular speed light. It wasn't as powerful as a studio strobe, so it tried to compete against the, what time, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock? Yeah, like 3 o'clock sun. It wasn't doing that good of a job, so I knew I could always fix this, and here we're gonna go. Ready? So, our buddy Ev is coming in from sunny Toronto. Yes, we have in fact, Ev, if you notice, bud, I did it again. I forgot to put sunscreen on, and so we were outside, and yeah. Anyways, all right, so here we are. The very first thing I want to do is I want to use the AI image enhancer. Look at that already. So before and after. So these are the tools I would normally start with: light, enhancer, and color. All right. So I want to continue with this because I need to bring the shadows out a little bit more. There we go. And before I keep going any further, let's click on the creative tools. I want to change out that sky so I can match my edits. Ready? I chose Blue Sky 2. Oh, look at that. Look at that. So it did a great job at replacing most of the power lines here. Now, notice there's a little bit showing up on his arm. So we're going to take care of that in a moment. And let's see. Before and after. Okay. So there's a couple things we're going to fix. First, let's dive right in here. And I want to see what would happen if we close the gaps. Watch this. If we close the gaps a little bit further, notice it's going to do a good job at removing it on him here, but it gave us a little bit more issue. It gave us a little more problems. Ooh, I love what it did here, though. Look at that. It got rid of the power lines in most of the cases. This will be easy to fix. And there's a little bit on him. And there's some coming in on his face. Right? Yep. So some are coming on his face. We close the gaps. So let's see if we could try to do something with the local skies. Blending the texture of the local sky in. That's good. And then, here we go, the global sky. Let's dial it back just a little. All right, let's go the opposite direction. Okay, good. Notice what it just did there? It made it worse. So let's bring Sky Global way back and see what that does. All right, there we go. So I'm trying to do all the fixing with sliders. So I'm trying to use a slider to fix this because it's AI. And if I use this as a look, I can apply it to all the images in the set, and I don't have to go back and mask them. So right now, I will have to come back and do a little bit of masking around here, but it's not too bad at all. So before and after. Ooh, I really like how that's looking. So I can come down to Edit Mask, Brush, and I'm going to use the erase part. I'll start out at 50% opacity, and I'm going to come in, brush around his face, his arm, anywhere where I feel the sky is seeping in. We'll come back and fix that spot. Ooh, good. All right, we're almost there. Now, and what I can do here is click the visibility icon. So now I know exactly where I'm at. I'm going to change that now to 100%. So now I have a good outline of where he is. Ooh. Good. There we go. And then let's bring the opacity back down to maybe 10%. And this time, I'm going to go back over and paint some of the areas I feel I got a little too close. There we go. All right. Let's see the mask. All right. That's it. And if you notice, I'm using a brush, or a pen rather, and what I'm doing is I'm coming in and I'm flicking. So I'm flicking it just a bit like this all the way around. That's kind of hard to do with a mouse. There it is. All right, we're set. And I'll click done. All right. So I got this. Now, I'm sorry, one moment. Good. Good. So now that I have all this set, I'm looking. I want to bring on a little bit more shadow on his face before I attack one of the other problems. So I'm going to go to the Pro Tools and Advanced Contrast. Watch this. Let's just tackle the shadows. Look at that. Oh, how cool is that? Good. So I have this looking good. Nice. And I'm going to come back to light. And with light, let me bring the blacks, original blacks, just a little bit more. Before, after, good. Now, at this point, I'm happy with what I have, but I want to just take it just a little bit further. So let's create a stamp layer. Now I'm creating a new stamp layer. So what this is going to do is it's going to compress all the tools that I just used. It's going to combine them all, create a new layer on top of that. And on that top layer, it's going to be as if it's all on its own. So I can do whatever I want to that image on top, and the bottom layer won't be affected. I can go back and change anything on the bottom layer, and now the top layer won't get affected. So they're two independent layers. Whereas an adjustment layer, you can see right through it, all right? And you'll see why that's important in a moment. So I have it set here. Now what I want to do is do the layer transform. And I'm going to transform the top layer. So I'm going to transform this top layer here and just move it down a couple there. So I just moved it down a couple pixels, and we're going to use part of the top elements right up in here. We're going to use that to hide some of the imperfections. All right? So now that we did that, notice you can see it up on top. Edit and use the brush. I want to paint at 100% opacity. And now come in really close, and I'm going to come in and just add some of this here. And we'll fix that in a moment. Now, if I don't like where this is, in fact, I like this part here. I'm not a fan of what I'm doing to this. All right. That's it. Let's see what happens down here. Oh, a little too far. Here we go. And I'll attack that in a moment. All right. So I'm looking, and I realize what I'm going to end up doing. I don't like where all of this is. So let me put this back a little bit. Oh, wrong one. There we go. Now, again, the beauty of this being non-destructive, I did a little layer masking, but I'm going to go back and I want to transform that layer again. And I want to move it up just a little bit because obviously, or actually what we'll do, since we have it up here, I'm going to enlarge it. So here's the wires are right about here. That's it. And let's see if that helps. and done. Now, again, this is that little extra step. I could use a clone and stamp tool. I could use the erase tool. From here, spur of the moment, I just wanted to see I wanted to see if I could just copy elements, and sure enough, it did a better job. Look at that. So, and I would take the extra time. Oh, wrong one. I would take the extra time. Let me cancel that out. And continue with the edit mask. Here we go. I would continue with the extra time and transform this layer. Here we go. So get rid of this. Almost there. Good. And come in. Good. And just finesse it. So again, there's so many different ways we do it, but the whole key, what I was trying to show here, is we don't have to wait for the sky anymore. We don't have to wait for the sky to be perfect for us to go out and replace it. If those telephone lines weren't there, this would have been a one-click, erase, move on to the next image. So it's very important to remember, as photographers, we could go out and we could photograph whatever we want to do, knowing that we can always come back and replace the sky just like that. All right? So let me show you one last thing here. Now, if you liked the tutorials that we were doing here, make sure you visit skylum.com/academy, because in the academy, like this morning, here we go, I did teach a class on up and running with Luminar 4. And you can check this out. So these are where all the recordings will be held. Also, for the podcast, we have our coffee breaks. You can see everyone that we've had in the last, I think we've recorded something like 106 of them. And there's a new series called Behind the Scenes. And if you run into problems, don't forget, we have the user manual right here at your fingertips, and he's able to help answer any questions you have. So, well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you at the next Luminar Coffee Break.